I signed our new mortgage. Then a banker texted, "Ma'am, your husband closed every account." The pen was still warm in my fingers when my phone buzzed against the stack of closing documents, that dull vibration you usually ignore because you're trying to look like an adult in a conference room. I'd just finished signing my name for what felt like the 100th time, my wrist aching, my brain foggy from legal language and polite small talk. The banker had stepped out to make copies, the realtor was chatting about moving trucks, and my husband, Caleb, was scrolling on his phone with that bored, restless energy he gets when he's trapped in one place. I glanced down at the notification expecting a calendar reminder or my sister's group chat. Instead it was a text from an unknown number, and the first line made my stomach drop so hard I tasted metal. "Ma'am, your husband closed every account." I stared at it until the words stopped looking like English. Closed every account. Every account. I read it again, then again, like repetition could turn it into a misunderstanding. My thumb hovered over the screen, trembling, and I could feel the blood rush in my ears so loud it drowned out the realtor's voice. My eyes flicked up to Caleb across the table. He was still scrolling, jaw tight, leg bouncing under the chair. He looked normal. He looked like a man about to buy a house with his wife. And I was sitting there with a mortgage I'd just signed and a text that sounded like the beginning of a con. I didn't speak right away. I didn't know how. My mouth went dry in an instant, like my body had decided words were dangerous. I typed back with shaking fingers, "Who is this?" The reply came almost immediately, "It's Darren from Westbridge. We spoke last month about consolidating. I'm sorry to message like this, but I saw your name on the mortgage paperwork today. Your husband just closed the joint checking, the savings, and the credit line. I thought you should know." My throat tightened so hard it hurt to swallow. The room felt too bright. The air conditioner hummed overhead like nothing was happening. I looked at Caleb again and tried to find a crack in his face, some hint that he knew his life was about to blow up. He didn't look up. He just kept scrolling, thumb moving fast, like he was swiping away consequences. I slid my phone into my lap, screen against my thigh, and forced my face into something neutral. The banker would be back any second. The realtor was smiling at me like we were about to celebrate. I could feel my heartbeat in my fingertips. I kept thinking, I literally just signed us into 30 years of debt, and now I didn't even know if I had access to a debit card. I took a slow breath and stood. "I'm so sorry," I said, voice a little too bright. "I need the restroom." 2 minutes. Caleb glanced up, distracted. "Okay," he said, and went right back to his phone. The bathroom down the hall was empty and smelled like lemon cleaner. I locked myself in a stall like I was hiding from an animal. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped my phone once, fumbled it, caught it again. I called the number back because texting felt too slow. It rang twice. "This is Darren," a man answered, voice low and cautious, like he already knew he was stepping into something messy. "This is..." I said my name, then stopped because my voice broke on the second syllable. I cleared my throat. "I'm sorry. I got your text." "What do you mean he closed every account?" There was a pause. "Ma'am," he said gently, "I didn't want to alarm you. But yes. The joint checking ending in 1043 was closed this morning. The savings ending in 7721 was closed right after. And the home equity line, it was paid off and closed." I'm looking at the account history. My knees actually went weak. I leaned my shoulder against the stall wall. "How can he do that without me?" I whispered. "He's listed as a joint holder with full access," Darren said. "In our system, either party can close unless there's a restriction." Did you file anything that would restrict actions?" "No," I said, and I could hear the stupid disbelief in my own voice. "We're married." Another pause, the kind where a stranger is trying to stay professional while witnessing a collapse. "I'm sorry," Darren said again. I didn't think you knew." And then when I saw the mortgage paperwork come across with your name and the new property address, he exhaled. I felt wrong not saying anything. I pressed my palm hard against my eyes, like I could keep tears from forming by force. Where did the money go? I asked, and I hated the desperation in my tone. I can't give you exact details without you in person with ID, he said quickly, but I can tell you there were cashier's checks issued and a transfer to an external account. It was done in a way that, he hesitated. In a way that usually indicates someone wants funds moved immediately. My stomach turned. Immediate, I repeated. Like, running. Ma'am, he said softly, I really recommend you come in. Today. Bring ID. And, if you feel unsafe, don't confront him alone. Unsafe. The word made my throat tighten all over again. Caleb had never hit me. He'd never screamed the way some men do. But he had been, controlling lately. Not with fists. With tone. With silence. With money, apparently. I'm at the bank right now, I whispered. Closing on our house. There was a brief silence and then Darren's voice went even quieter. Okay, he said. Then please don't sign anything else until you understand what's happening. If you can, ask the banker to pause the process. You can say you need to review an item. I hung up and sat there for a second, staring at the stall door like it was going to open and swallow me. My hands felt numb. My body was hot and cold at the same time. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and quick, and I forced myself to slow it down because I knew if I panicked, I'd lose the ability to think. It was a Monday, and we'd been together 7 years, married for 4. My husband, Caleb, was the kind of man people liked right away. Charming in a way that felt effortless. He could make a cashier laugh, make my aunt say, he's such a good one, make my friends roll their eyes and still admit he was fun. He worked in sales too, always closing deals, always talking about strategy like life was a negotiation. When we first got together, that confidence felt safe. Like he'd always have an answer. Like he'd always take care of things. And for a long time, he did, at least on the surface. He handled bills. He set up our accounts. He'd say, I'll take care of it, and I believed him because I wanted to. I was a teacher. My days were full of other people's needs. It was easy to let him be the one who managed the adult stuff. We had joined accounts because that's what married couples do. We talked about buying a house like it was the next logical step. We saved for years, or I thought we did. I watched the numbers go up when I peeked at the app, but I didn't watch closely. I trusted. The past year, though, things got tight in ways he always explained with a shrug. The market's weird. My commission got delayed. It's just timing. He started getting irritated when I asked about money. Why do you always assume the worst, he'd say. Or, do you not trust me? And I'd back off, because I didn't want to be the nagging wife. I didn't want to be suspicious without proof. Buying the house was supposed to be proof we were okay. A new start. A grown-up milestone. He was the one who pushed for it hard, actually. He'd send me listings. He'd talk about equity and investment like he was building a legacy. When I hesitated, he'd kiss my forehead and say, we're ready. Trust me. Trust me. That phrase suddenly felt like a trap. I walked out of the bathroom with my spine stiff, face composed the way you learn to compose it when you're about to cry but you refuse to do it in public. I went back into the conference room and sat down slowly. The banker returned with a neat stack of papers. All set, she said cheerfully. Just a couple final initials and we'll be done. I looked at Caleb. He looked up and smiled, like this was a happy day. Almost homeowners, he said, and his voice had that polished warmth he uses when he knows people are watching. I swallowed hard. Actually, I said, and my voice came out steadier than I expected, I need to review something in our banking information before we proceed. Caleb's smile flickered. Just a tiny crack. What? He asked, and the edge in his tone was immediate. I need to review, I repeated, keeping my eyes on the banker, not him. It'll take a minute. The banker nodded, polite. Of course, she said. Take your time. Caleb leaned toward me, low voice. What are you doing? He hissed, not loud enough for the others to hear. I turned to him and kept my expression mild, the way you do when you're trying not to set off a bomb. I got a message from the bank, I said. About our accounts. His eyes sharpened. What message? I watched his face closely. That's the thing, I'd never really watched him before. Not like that. Not for tells. But now I did, and I saw it, a tightness around his mouth, a quick swallow, the briefest dart of his gaze away from mine. Not confusion. Calculation. It said you closed them, I said quietly. For a second he looked like he might deny it. Then he leaned back and forced a laugh that sounded wrong in the room. Seriously, he said, louder, like he wanted the banker to hear the tone but not the content. Now? You're doing this now? My stomach clenched. He wasn't going to explain. He was going to shame me. I'm not doing anything, I said, still quiet. I'm asking if it's true. His jaw tightened. Yes, he said, clipped. I moved things. It's fine. Moved them where? I asked. His eyes flashed. Why does it matter? Because I just signed a mortgage, I wanted to scream. Because you just erased our financial life, I wanted to say. Instead I said, because my name is on this loan too. He leaned in again, voice sharp. Not in front of them, he muttered. That word, them, made me realize something. He didn't want witnesses. He wanted control. He wanted the conversation where he could twist it. I turned to the banker. Can we pause? I asked, voice polite but firm. I need to confirm the funding for closing costs and the accounts tied to this mortgage. The banker's smile softened into professional seriousness. Yes, she said. We can pause. Do you have concerns about the funds? Caleb's head snapped toward me. His eyes were hard now. Are you kidding me? He said, and he couldn't keep all the heat out of his voice. The realtor shifted uncomfortably, suddenly very interested in her folder. I'm not comfortable signing anything else, I said. I looked Caleb straight in the face. Not until you tell me exactly what you did. For a moment, the room held its breath. The banker cleared her throat gently. Mr. and Mrs. Collins, she said, tone careful, if there are changes to your accounts, it would be wise to clarify before proceeding. We can step out to give you privacy if you'd like. Caleb stood abruptly, chair scraping. No, he said, and the single syllable was too aggressive for a bank office. He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. We're fine. It's just, my wife is stressed. Stressed. Like I was irrational. Like this was hormones or nerves. I felt something cold settle in me. I'm not stressed, I said. I'm informed. His nostrils flared. He grabbed his phone and looked at it like he needed to ground himself. Then he pocketed it and said, "Lo, we'll talk in the car." No, I said again. We're talking now. His eyes widened slightly, like he couldn't believe I was refusing the script. He looked at the banker, then at the realtor, then back at me, and I saw him decide which version of himself to wear. He exhaled and leaned on the table, voice suddenly smooth. Okay, he said, too calm. I moved the money because I didn't want it sitting in joint accounts while we're closing. There are scams. There are holds. I put it somewhere safe. Somewhere safe, I repeated, because I could hear Darren's voice in my head, cashier's checks. External transfer. Immediate. Where, I said, slowly, is somewhere safe? His smile twitched. A separate account, he said. In your name, I said. His eyes hardened. It's still our money. Then put my name on it, I said, and my voice shook just slightly. Right now. Call the bank. Add me. Show me. He stared at me like I'd just spoken another language. We don't have time for this, he said. We have time, I said. We're paused. The banker shifted, clearly uncomfortable. I can give you a moment, she offered. Caleb's eyes didn't leave mine. You're embarrassing me, he said under his breath. I felt a flash of anger so sharp it almost made me dizzy. You closed every account, I whispered back. And you're worried about embarrassment. He straightened, and for a second the charm slipped entirely. His voice dropped. Stop, he said. You're making a scene. I'm making a boundary, I said, and my hands were trembling but my spine stayed straight. I am not signing a 30-year mortgage with someone who can erase our finances without warning. His face went pale in a way that finally looked like fear, not anger. You're overreacting, he said, but the words sounded weaker now. The banker cleared her throat again. Mrs. Collins, she said gently, would you like to step into my office to discuss privately? I nodded before Caleb could speak. Yes, I said. I would. Caleb's head snapped toward the banker. No, we're not. The banker's expression stayed polite but firm. It's standard to ensure both parties are comfortable. We're handling a significant legal commitment. Caleb looked around the room and realized the power dynamic had shifted. He couldn't bully me quietly if other adults were watching. I followed the banker into her office, closing the door behind us. The moment the latch clicked, my composure cracked just enough for my eyes to sting. I got a call, I said softly. From someone at my bank. He said my husband closed everything. The banker's face changed, professional concern sharpened into something closer to alarm. Do you have access to funds right now? She asked. I don't know, I admitted, and my voice broke on the last word. I don't even know where he moved it. She nodded once, decisive. I'm going to recommend we halt this closing, she said. Until you can verify funding and ensure you're protected. If you proceed and funds are missing, you could be obligated without access. Obligated. The word landed heavy. My chest tightened with a different kind of panic, less emotional, more practical. Mortgage, liability, credit. My whole life braided into legal commitments with a man who had just demonstrated he could pull the rug without telling me. Through the glass, I could see Caleb pacing in the conference room, phone in hand, jaw clenched. He looked like an animal in a trap. The realtor sat stiffly, pretending to read. The banker slid a card across the desk. If you feel at all unsafe, she said quietly, you may want to contact someone you trust to meet you. And you should consider speaking with legal counsel. I nodded, swallowing hard. I texted my sister with shaking fingers, I need you. Please come to Westbridge Bank right now. Then I opened my own banking app and tried to log in. The password didn't work. I tried again. Locked out. My stomach lurched. Of course. He didn't just move money. He changed access. When I walked back into the conference room, Caleb's head snapped up. What did you do? He demanded, eyes wild. I held up my phone. I can't log into our accounts, I said. I'm locked out. His face twisted. Because you keep forgetting the password, he snapped. I didn't forget it, I said. It's saved. His eyes darted away. That was enough. The banker stepped in smoothly. Mr. Collins, she said, calm, we're going to pause the closing. Mrs. Collins needs to verify her access to funds. We can reschedule once everything is clarified. Caleb's face went red. You can't just, he started. We can, the banker said, tone still polite. This is voluntary. Both parties must consent. He turned on me, and his voice dropped into something that felt like a threat wrapped in frustration. You're blowing up our life. I looked at him and felt something inside me harden. No, I said quietly. You already did. I just found out. My sister arrived 20 minutes later, hair still wet from a shower, eyes sharp as she scanned the room. Caleb's posture shifted immediately when he saw her. He suddenly remembered how to look calm. In the parking lot, he tried again, soft voice, hands out like he was reasonable. I was trying to protect us, he said. You don't understand. What were you protecting us from? I asked. Me? He opened his mouth, then closed it. My sister stood beside me like a wall. Where is the money? She asked flatly. Caleb's jaw clenched. It's safe, he repeated. Show it, she said. Right now. He didn't. That night, I didn't go home with him. I went to my sister's place with a tote bag and my toothbrush, shaking the entire drive. The next morning, with my ID in my hand and my stomach still in knots, I went into the bank and sat across from Darren. He looked like a man who'd seen this before. He helped me get my own access restored to what I could, and then he said the sentence that confirmed what my gut already knew. Your husband opened a new account in his name only 2 weeks ago, he said. He began moving funds gradually, then closed everything today. 2 weeks. That meant he'd planned this while we toured houses. While he kissed my forehead and said trust me. While I chose paint colors and imagined a future. I don't know what Caleb thought would happen. That I'd be too embarrassed to stop the closing. That I'd sign and smile and he'd keep the money hostage. That I'd be trapped. What happened instead is I hired a lawyer. I froze my credit. I changed every password. I moved my direct deposit. I told the mortgage lender I was withdrawing from the purchase. I stopped answering Caleb's calls until I could do it with someone else present. And the part that still makes me feel sick. The part that still wakes me up at 3 a.m. It's not just the money. It's the ease. The way he did it while looking me in the eyes, while acting like we were building something together. If you made it to the end, thanks for watching. And if you've ever had someone pull a financial rug out from under you, whether it was a partner, a spouse, anyone you trusted, share your story in the comments. I'm reading them, and it helps to know you're not alone when the betrayal isn't loud, it's paperwork.